Shh. Nobody's listening, right? Hi, Andy.
Hi.
Is anybody listening?
Yes. This is from Sarah. I thought I had already reviewed the podcast, but I just added another 5 stars. Hey, if you can do it.
We love it.
On my walk today, I had tears streaming down my face, on the verge of shoulder sobs, and at the same time shaking with uncontrollable laughter, making audible noises in the neighborhood. Well done, mutterfutters, from one nervous Nelly backseat driver to another.
Oh,
That's so sweet.
So sweet.
I also do want to point out that we also had a ton of feedback, whether it be on iTunes or Spotify or Instagram or the TikTok or the YouTube, that it seems like Americans know about Lewis and Clark.
Yes.
I got texts from friends. My friend Paige hit me up about it.
St. Monica, Anna Marie, my sister. People know Lewis and Clark.
And the way that you are always trying to minimize them. Now, you did celebrate their love story, which that's a story that's not often told. So I do appreciate that.
Yes.
But you're minimizing everything else is
As
just
I said,
reckless.
Anna Marie said, we went to the Lewis and Clark Museum in Great Falls, Montana. Definitely not just a St. Louis thing. Huge in Oregon, where they ended up their expedition and lived for 2 years before heading back. There's a Lewis and Clark College in Oregon and tons of stuff all over the PNW.
Pacific Northwest.
And what I said was anything at that museum about them having sex.
And?
Nothing in the museum, sadly.
So Paige pointed out something that's really interesting.
Wait, your friend Paige?
Yeah.
Listens?
Yeah, I guess so.
Wow.
Shout out Paige.
I love her.
I absolutely love Paige. So check this out. This is an interesting thing that you're going to learn a little bit. This is going to enlighten you about me a little bit.
Oh.
And my journey throughout America.
Your expedition.
Let me just read this because I'll get lost if I don't. Let Elizabeth know that the rest of the country is definitely aware of Lewis and Clark. Well, at least Idaho and Montana. We talked about them every year in elementary school, and I'm not sure if you remember, but Missoula...
Your alma mater.
Yes. And Montana is just wild about those two. The party stopped here at the Clark Fork River, then crossed over Lolo Pass. But just so she knows, being on the edge of many Indian reservations, their impact is also still widely discussed. It's interesting. Oddly, you seem to have traced their path in your youth, starting in St. Louis, then to Idaho, then
to Montana.
So isn't that kind of interesting?
Same trek.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like some might call me an explorer.
I was thinking back to whatever I read where it was like describing Lewis as being not a ladies' man at all. Mm-hmm. And all he loved was nature. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, all I would love is nature if I'm able to finally get mine, you know.
I'm not following.
What's the word I'm looking for? Like, if I'm able to finally get out there and get my rub on or whatever.
Your rub on? What are you talking about?
Spout off, you know.
Spout off?
He's coming out there. He's coming and he's going. He's
masturbating out in the woods?
No, where have you been? With me. Clark.
With you in your fantasies?
No. He and Clark
No.
were out there for years upon years, and Lewis just wanted to stay out there. Lewis was not interested in coming back and settling down. He only felt comfortable in nature. I'm doing air quotes right now.
Yeah.
Because he was in the arms of his beloved.
Okay, this is my theory.
And getting his dick, you know.
Getting his dick what? Say it. Because I want to know what you think they were doing out there.
All of it. Any which way.
I've been on Lolo Pass in a Jeep Cherokee in like 2005, and that was hard. I'm thinking that 150 years ago, how much harder it is than my Jeep Cherokee. There wasn't time for sucking D's.
We're dirty.
Okay, put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. This is my theory. Okay. I think that it was one-sided. I actually don't think they're lovers. I think Lewis, is it Lewis that the one who never married?
Yeah, Lewis was in love with Clark.
And did we see? I think
Clark named his son after Meriwether Lewis.
Oh, right. We talked about that last week. That is a big gesture, but I think I said this last week. It was more out of like throwing him a bone. He's
thrown him bones.
I just think it might have been one-sided.
That's just your gut instinct.
So you really think they were like hooking up the whole time? Would there have been time?
Each other.
Lots of love, sure, but you think the love transcended into romantic love?
Okay, we're getting somewhere interesting.
Dirty peen love. That has to be a lot of love.
Okay, but you don't know. Let me ask you something.
I do know if we're talking about dirty peens and dirty V's, you got to have a lot of love to be going those places.
You're talking like expedition dirty. But, you know, the common thing about prison culture for men especially is...
Wow, what a leap you're about to make here. Okay.
is, you know, men are having sex in there. And, you know, you need to establish dominance right when you get in. So if you don't want to, whatever. There's a lot of assaults and stuff, unfortunately. So the story goes. But I also suspect that there are men in prison who just go there because they're lonely and they're horny.
Hold on.
So I'm think
that there's men that are getting arrested because they're lonely and horny?
No. By go there, I meant have gay sex in prison.
Oh, you're not saying go to the prison. No. They're just bored and want to get their rocks off.
Not bored. They're lonely and they want connection, and maybe they kind of fall in love with someone. You know, I also think sexuality is all a spectrum.
Sure.
It's not like I'm coming up with that.
Yeah.
And in times of, you know, it's like, if I got hungry enough, would I eat meat? Probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so just to give a little weight to your feeling about Lewis and Clark, I wonder, you know, they were out there for years. Mm-hmm. I wonder if Clark kind of went with it with Lewis. But Lewis truly was, you know, he was gay. He was in love with Clark.
Yeah.
Clark, it was more of a, you know, your what's in front of you situation.
A circumstance in front of you, but also, and he himself would never discount the bond that they had too.
No, but no one's discounting the bond.
But once they got back to civilization, he was like, "Hey, buddy, I know what we had out there. That was nice, bud.
Yeah.
But like that's not my normal thing."
Yeah.
And then
but
Lewis was
kind
of
I'm
heartbroken.
I'm going to name my son after you.
Right.
As a gesture.
Okay, let's talk about dirty peens, whether it's on an expedition or just like in medieval times. People were
let's talk
gross.
Let's talk about vaginas.
No, let's talk about the dirty everything down there, the dirty bits.
So I just read this book that was set in old time Paris. 2 old times. One was like, I don't know, it's also both during like uprisings in Paris that I don't know anything about. Mm-hmm. Prussians are involved, whatever.
Prussia.
But there is a lady of the night in one of these books. And
what's a lady of the night?
A sex worker, I guess, you know. Back then, I think.
Whore.
No,
not whore.
Little
Sorry.
Dirty slut.
No. What were they called back then?
I don't know, but it's really sad. She had to do it because she was trying to get her son back. And anyway.
Jeez.
But so much disease also. And they didn't have the meds.
Right.
And
do you mean STDs?
Yes. And all of it.
Yeah.
So cleanliness, we've come a long way in the last 100 or so years regarding germs, cleanliness, all of that stuff.
Everybody's up in an uproar about like the big gonorrhea outbreak going on. But like, hey, that's not taking you down, right? Like,
is there a gonorrhea?
Oh,
or are you
sure.
being funny?
No, there's super gonorrhea. You haven't seen the super gonorrhea billboards?
No.
It's weird. It's like, I don't notice many things. You notice everything, and yet you don't see billboards that say super gonorrhea in LA.
No,
I'm not lying. They exist.
Okay.
But we're all worried about super gonorrhea, if you will. But back then, you could die from these STDs. I don't think anyone's dying from super gonorrhea. My apologies if people are dying from it.
So I just went to get my TB test today, tuberculosis. Because you have to get one if you want to volunteer for something I'm volunteering for. Mm-hmm. And I was like, so what is the TB test? Mm-hmm. I meant, like, how is it administered? But she launched into, it's for tuberculosis. It's a horrible disease.
Yeah.
It's, hacking up blood. It's cold sweats. It's all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh, and is there a vaccine for it? And she said, yes, but it's mostly in other countries. It's not really big here in the United States. I mean, it's very unlikely you'd get tuberculosis.
Okay.
But if you did, the treatment's really gnarly. Mm-hmm. It's like 6 months straight of drugs. Mm-hmm. If you miss one of the drugs, you have to start all over again. It's back to square one.
That'd be hard for me.
And it's really tough on the bod.
What if that's what hell is just you keep forgetting your TB pill and you're forever on the medicine? Woof. That could be one version of hell.
That could be. But I, a lot of times, think about like all the petticoats,
What are all the petticoats?
That women had to used to wear. I mean, women went through a lot, but in their vaginas. Like,
what do vaginas have to do with petticoats?
Well, it's a lot of.
What's a petticoat?
Oh, it's a.
Is it underwear?
No, it's under your dress. It's like it's a skirt under your dress that has volume, that adds volume to your dress.
Okay.
So it's a long skirt. So
it's an undergarment, sort of?
Yeah, but they would wear like 3 petticoats under their dress.
So it's getting hot down there.
Oh,
Swampy.
It's baking. You are swamped out. You're swamped out.
Stinky.
So cool. But anyway, I think, can we move on?
But let's not discount the body cleans itself. The body is a
that's
clean thing.
another
But
thing.
The aromas were just way spicier then.
Then we went to the pendulum swung. And, 40 years ago, even 30 years ago, douches were a thing. Like, you're going to squeeze a bunch of vinegar up there. Like, the stuff that we did. And it is a self-cleaning thing. In fact, when this isn't exactly right, but when our kids, the kids we share, were little, mm-hmm. and they would, we have a pretty open door policy, not so much now anymore, with bathroom stuff and, uh-huh. Walking around naked and stuff.
Yeah.
But if I had my period, and they, at one point in time, both of them were like, what is that? And I would...
What do you...
I would say it's if I'm on the potty and I wipe and they see blood
they
or
saw
something.
Blood. Okay.
And I would be like, I would tell them, oh, well, once a month my body cleans itself, and it does that by ejecting this blood out of the body, and then it builds back, and then but cleaning itself was the way I framed it, even though it's not technically accurate, but I think it seemed age appropriate.
Do you think that
palatable.
Since the dirty bits were so spicy smelling, that probably those smells were much more of a turn on to people, though? Because that would be like,
yeah,
the stuff is coming. I'm near the good stuff, right?
Ew. God. I actually demand.
But you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get out of here.
I could do 30 more minutes on dirty
I know I got
bits.
us here, but we have a lot to talk about.
We do?
Yes. Let's talk about tennis.
Oh, I would love to talk about tennis.
I know
I
you
just
would.
played.
Yeah, speaking of sluts, you were playing doubles. Were there any dumb sluts on your doubles team?
No, okay. It was all dudes.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm just joking if you do play with women in the future.
You were? I don't know. When I told you I was going to play doubles, that was your first question.
Well, to be honest, it's because someone you play tennis with regularly, mm-hmm. his wife suggested we all play doubles.
Oh, that's fun.
And I thought that would be fun. And so I kind of felt a little stepped on. If you were going out with him and there were 2 birds out there, it would feel a little, and heaven forbid it was his wife and another gal.
Well, that would feel like quite a betrayal. I would understand your hurt feelings, and I would do everything in my power to make sure you never found out about that, because that would hurt your feelings a lot. Hey, speaking of, what did you just say? Stepping on or something?
Tennis?
Or hurt feelings? I know I just said hurt feelings.
Yeah.
I think you did say something like stepping on. It doesn't matter. I want to acknowledge something real fast, and then we'll get to tennis. Right before the show, you did a very sweet gesture. You were at the drugstore, I'm guessing, and you bought some new mechanical pencils for crossword puzzling, and you offered one, maybe even two. I don't know.
I did. I said you can pick two.
You said you can pick
two. Whatever
two.
colors
and
you want.
I was very snarky, and I said, I'm not interested. And I was being a little pouty, little asshole, sort of, and just being like, mine are better, the ones I have, right?
Uh-huh.
I want to let you know where that's coming from, because I've done some reflection since then.
Okay.
This is going to get real for a second. I was, you look nervous.
I am.
I was playing, you know, deep down I do kind of want one of your pencils, but also deep down, I was hoping to be your little crossword king, as you know. And some of my crossword puzzle wind in my sail has lessened a little bit because you have taken up crosswords so strongly. Your wind bloweth over. And it's a weird thing to talk about.
Because you brought this to me.
I brought it into the house, and now I feel like
it's so dumb, though, Andy.
I know
like,
it is.
Just have it
Just
be your thing or not. It's not like just because I enjoy it now, you can't do it.
I know, but
I know I'm very good at it. I mean, the Mondays. I'm not good on the scale of like.
But it's become more your thing than my thing a little bit.
But only by virtue of you stopping. I'm glad you brought this up. I've been a little disappointed, if I'm going to be honest.
Because I haven't been doing them as much?
Yes.
Well, number one, the last week or 2 weeks has been crazy for me.
Dedicated to tennis.
God damn it. I've been busy and played a little tennis. But, so I think I just haven't had as much time to do them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and you've just been off to the races. And I feel weird even bringing this up in... You know what? It's a vicious cycle because, yes, it has affected me. And also, you're a little disappointed in me hearing, which is hard to hear. It's just all getting out of control.
Okay.
And
I want you to get back into crossword puzzles. I think you took a break. That's fine.
Yeah, the weekend, you know what? I almost put my crossword puzzle socks on yesterday, and I said, no. We're going to go to the cabin this weekend.
Yes.
I'm saving my crossword puzzles for the cabin. I'll put them on then. So maybe I'll get back on the saddle.
Do you always wear your socks when you're crossword puzzling?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, tennis.
Yeah.
I want you to talk a little bit about tennis because it's become a big thing in our lives recently. The U.S. Open was last weekend. We watched the whole thing of the last finals.
Yeah, that was fun.
Which was very fun.
Yeah.
I find the sound of watching tennis very comforting because my dad watched it all the time when I was growing up, and I always found it so fucking boring. But now I love it.
Oh.
And I love
you
watching it.
You like the ball noise and the sneakers squeaking?
And I love watching it, and I'm like, it gets me jazzed to play it.
Yeah.
So you've been playing more lately. Mm-hmm. And what happened yesterday?
Oh, I can't stop telling everybody about it. I was playing my buddy John, and he did like a little drop shot thing that I shouldn't have been able to get, where I had to charge to the net. And in charging to the net, I kind of did like a dive thing and then fell and slid. Racket hits the ground, body on the ground, and I made the shot. And I have scrapes all over my legs to prove it. And there was like gasps when I did it.
From who?
From the people that were around. So there were two guys that were waiting to see like when a tennis court would let up or open up, and then there was the people next to us playing. And I think one person was like, "Are you okay?" Because it was a real spill. But I was totally fine, except my thumb really hurt afterwards because of all the adrenaline of making the shot.
Yes.
And then, so I played again today. I played doubles, and John was also there today. And I asked him, I was like, hey, like, how badass was that yesterday? Or was it, like, more in the, like kind of sad and, like, pathetic that, because I kind of fell, too, right?
Yeah.
It was in between a dive and a fall.
Wow.
But he was like, no, it was pretty good. And I think he would have been straight with me.
He would have been. And did you go all the way like that? I mean, going back to the swimming pool lady last week, because there were people watching?
No,
were
it was
like,
more, I was just so hyped up after we watched the US Open. I'm just like jazzed about tennis. So it was more like, I gotta fucking get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going as whatever the docuseries we're watching, Breakpoint.
On Netflix, yeah.
On Netflix. Good. As the coach told, what's the Francis Tio? Oh, do you know his name?
I know who you're talking about, yeah.
His coach told him, you have to go after the ball. You have to be aggressive on the ball. You can't play defensively. And sure enough.
That doesn't sound that mind-blowing when you say it. It seems pretty obvious.
Well, anyway, tennis, and then we've talked about...
So you're getting the bug, it sounds like. Is that what you're saying?
I want to get out there, we'll see how it goes. But then you came home and you're like displaying the injury as though it's... And we've already established from past episodes that you can get a little horny after tennis.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You were like raging. You were so full of yourself with adrenaline.
Testosterone.
You're proud of yourself for making that shot.
Yeah.
You're trotting out your injury at every point you can.
Thought you might think it was sexy.
Well, I did think I did.
Oh.
Not the injury, but the idea of you doing that.
That's good enough.
And then...
Because I went big. You realized you were married to a champion for a second, right?
So tennis is on the mind. I feel like I was going somewhere with something.
Yeah, you seem lost right now.
I'm a little off today.
Did you not have caffeine?
Oh,
see, this
maybe.
is the thing. You get back on the saddle, and then if you don't have it, you're lost.
I've been having a very sharp headache just in my left temple.
Tension headache. Classic. Getting back on the caffeine situation.
Have I overdone it?
Yeah. This is the thing. It's like,
shit.
I watched you, I'm getting decaf. I'll get a half calf. And then it was like, was it yesterday or the day before that you were like, I am buzzing. I've had you had the equivalent of 3 coffees before 1 o'clock yesterday.
Yeah. Bad.
You have to pace yourself. You have no self-control.
I don't have self-control. I like things that I like.
Like what? Give me an example. Where have you felt out of control lately?
I don't know exactly. I mean, what's weird is I have no control over things like coffee or, I don't know. I guess that's really the only place lately.
Okay.
But I also can't do anything.
You feel a little stuck. Or no? Do you want to talk about that?
I'm feeling I've been talking about this over the last few weeks. How I usually have 75,000 ideas, and I do have ideas actually. And I'm would be writing my little ass off and whatever. If I had a chunk of time like this where I truly have nothing to do, but I'm I can't do it.
You know what? The other thing, though, is I think if I can throw you a little bit of a bone, is you have been doing so much of the childcare stuff because I've been busy lately.
I have. And
do you know what I mean?
I appreciate that recognition. I really have been, yes.
So I think that
the house stuff and
Yeah,
so
all of it. Yeah. So I think it's just kind of the way the balance is flowing right now.
I do understand. I wish we had I'm kind of jealous of my parents' generation, and I guess the one just below them, that had Oprah for if you are a stay-at-home mom, which is essentially what I am now, that afternoon treat to look forward to that's basically right before you're going to get your kids. And that's when you're folding the laundry and you're kind of putting the stuff away before the kids get home and tear it all apart. that
Brilliant.
so
Never thought of
that's
it
kind
like
of
that.
I'm kind of shaping my days similarly, like, take the kids to school, then I'm doing some stuff. I am doing stuff in the mornings, and then lunch, and then my afternoons are pretty just like housework. And then speaking of that, this came up yesterday. So now as my stay-at-home mom status, I'm like getting more involved with the school, and I last year got into a very frustrating war with this one intersection. I'm like 100 emails deep trying to get some safety measures at this intersection that many kids use to cross to go to school. There's been nothing done, and it's terrible. And I hate that intersection. I hate all the cars that don't stop there and stuff.
Okay.
But so there's a National Walk to School Day that LAUSD recognizes, and it's coming up. And I'm kind of in charge of getting all these people. It's funny because I've been kind of like, I've had my frustrated kind of email outbursts with them. But now I'm like, we'd love to invite you to come to the school and like meet you and discuss safety and whatever, since we've been working together to make the intersection safer. And in doing so, I kind of got extended an invitation to join our local neighborhood council.
Like legit city council?
No, not city council. I mean, LA City Council is like, you gotta, that's a major thing.
You gotta what?
You gotta campaign. I mean, that's your full-time 24/7.
Backdoor deals and whatnot.
Yeah. This is a neighborhood council. And so it's more kind of local people's involvement. And I said to you yesterday, hey, I got asked to join this and I'm thinking about joining it. And you laughed and you laughed. And you laughed. What? How come?
Because this is not something you have time for. You will regret this in such a huge fashion once your world becomes back to normal, once this strike ends and whatnot. You have strike happening glasses on right now.
Yeah.
And you would turn, I mean, that's a big commitment. Now, I'm not laughing at you because of how I think you would do at it. I actually know you would be fantastic.
Oh, that's so nice.
In that type of setting.
Thank you.
I really do think you could thrive in it. And I also think that it could really, you might actually like it, but I also think it would start really taking up your time. I think there may be a world where it could kind of get like into your dog rescue days where some of it would start weighing on you in a negative way. Gosh. You have a hard time shaking stuff off.
Whoa. I hadn't even thought of that. You're absolutely right.
And I just think it would be a big regret. And I'm sorry I laughed so hard when you told me but I just don't think it's realistic.
You know what? The time, you make a very fair point with the time, and I appreciate you saying you'd be good at it, because I, of course, was like, you think I'm not cut out for politics or whatever that is. No. Not that it's like super political, but
I think you'd be awesome.
The dog rescue era of mine what was I even doing then? We were podcasting, and I think we're working with Meg and we're really busy, and I didn't really have stuff cooking yet career-wise. But thanks to you, we were in a place where I wasn't having to work full-time, and I was just writing. But then I got involved with this wonderful dog rescue, the Mutt Scouts in LA. And it became a full-time thing for me. And my heart hardened into a rock of stone because I was so resentful and angry of like all the terrible shit I saw that humans did to dogs. And I used to not understand people saying like, I like dogs more than humans. I mean, I truly did, because I would be at these shelters, they're totally overrun, and assholes would come in with their 14-year-old senior geriatric dog. Here we go. You
I
hear
know.
it in my
That's why I'm smiling. I'm sorry. I'm not smiling at what you're describing. I'm smiling at like,
the rage
it's coming back so quickly.
It is. It's right there under the surface.
Yeah.
They'd come and bring their 14-year-old dog to have it live out the rest of its days in essentially a hell and walk out with a new puppy. Fuck.
Okay. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
See, it does come back. And I've told this story before, but I think I went to some like dog rescue conference type thing. And I was in a college, theater style classroom type thing. Mm-hmm. And I was looking around, and I have so much sympathy and empathy for people who do this. Like, they are a special kind of person.
Yeah.
I'm not cut out for it. And I was looking around, and I was like, there were a few people in there also not cut out for it, but who had stayed in it too long. See, yeah. And I was like, oh, God, I'm going to become an embittered jerk.
You had the skill set and the heart for it, but you weren't able to, you lacked like a thick
skin.
A thick skin and like a practicality about it that some of the people that are, I hate to say better at it, but like have that trait. Do you know what I mean? Not that they're better at the job, but they can handle it better. They can handle it.
Let's talk about thick skins. You know that phrase. Mm-hmm. I clearly didn't have it for that. And I don't think I would have it for anything that has to do with like suffering, whether it be the human variety or the animal variety or whatever. But I do have a very thick skin when it comes to, you're looking at me like...
Can't wait to hear.
I will say in my career, okay. I have a thick skin. I've been, how many times, I mean, it's almost comical. How many times did I have like a near thing happen or something was going to happen and it didn't? The last few years of my career has been more smooth riding. But also, I have a very thick skin when it comes to like feedback, fearless feedback in my career.
Okay.
Nothing you could say, unless it's like a very small handful of people that I really, really, really just respect and admire them. If they came to me and were like, hey, you know what? You shouldn't do this anymore. Like, you're really bad at this. Mm-hmm. Nothing anyone could say would like tear me down so much that I couldn't shake it off after one night.
Okay.
That's pretty thick-skinned. I know other people, I mean, I've watched people crash and burn in my industry because they couldn't handle just like pretty basic feedback.
Too hot, stay out of the kitchen.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. But I have a thick skin there. Do you think you have a thick skin?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. Watching Breakpoint, we've been very... What? Don't spit out that LaCroix.
Okay. Watching Breakpoint, you say, this is kind of, I hate to circle back to the crossword puzzle thing. You've watched like maybe 20 minutes of the show that I've watched like 8 episodes of, and now it's your fucking thing. Do you see what happens with you? Fucking 20 minutes of it. I've invested hours.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Well, I like to, I really like to go on these adventures with you. And
oh, is it part of going on together? Because that's very sweet. I do like that.
I do, but we do have a problem with this.
I know we do.
Like, the French classes were one thing, remember? You were like, we're going to do this together. And I totally get that.
Yeah.
But it limits what we're able to do on our own. Like now, I don't want you watching Breakpoint on your own.
Do you think? Yeah, no, I get that though. I hear that. But you know what's so weird is like, this is the last 2 weeks, this week especially, I've been so busy, not only work-wise, but also socially, which is rare for me. Like, it seems like every night. I've enjoyed all the social things I've done this week. but I want to be hanging out with you still.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
That's so nice.
Like, I still would I would rather be watching Breakpoint with you than
what?
I don't know. It's like, not that I don't want to do the other things I'm doing. I've had such a fun week and had so much fun with everybody I've hung out with. But it's like doing those things. I think I truly am an introvert where like I have to like gas myself up to do it and psych myself into it. Once I'm in it, I'm pretty good. Mm-hmm. But I don't get fueled by social things, I don't think, where some people do.
Yeah.
Where I can get fueled up and I could look forward to all day watching Breakpoint with you at the end of the day. That's
so nice.
Do you know what I mean though?
Yes, yes.
But are we codependent?
Oh. No.
I never have understood what codependent is.
I don't either, and people have given me different.
Even when you read a definition, because I feel like even when I hear the definition, I go, I don't know what that is.
I thought I had a handle on it, but then someone recently gave me like a new definition, and I was like, oh, that's not how I understood it. I mean, what it is not, I'm pretty sure, is what a lot of people think, where they're just like, they are too kind of what you're saying.
So it's not that necessarily.
I don't think it is just that.
Type in what is codependency. And do
Codependency is a learned behavior that can be passed down from one generation to another. It is an emotional and behavioral condition that affects an individual's ability to have a healthy, mutually satisfying relationship. It is also known as a relationship addiction. Interesting way to frame it, because people with codependency often form or maintain relationships that are one-sided, emotionally destructive, and or abusive. The disorder was first identified about 10 years ago. Codependent behavior is learned by watching and imitating other family members who display this type of behavior. So,
what is the behavior, though? I don't think this is.
I'm getting to it. How do codependent people behave?
Love it.
They have low self-esteem and look for anything outside of themselves to make them feel better. They find it hard to, quote, be themselves. Some try to feel better through alcohol, drugs, or nicotine and become addicted. Others may develop compulsive behaviors like workaholism, gambling, or indiscriminate sexual activity. They have good intentions. They try to take care of a person who is experiencing difficulty, but the caretaking becomes compulsive and defeating.
Right.
Codependents often take on a martyr's role and become benefactors to an individual in need. A wife may cover for her alcoholic husband, a mother may make excuses for a truant child, or a father may pull some strings to keep his child from suffering the consequences of delinquent behavior. The problem is that these repeated rescue attempts allow the needy individual to continue on a destructive course and to become even more dependent on the unhealthy caretaking of the benefactor.
I get it. It's like we're watching an episode of Intervention. So a lot of times the family members are very codependent.
Well, it also sounds like enabling. Like if you're enabling someone because you're actually receiving the care in turn or the love or whatever it is, that seems codependent. And I think that's why it's codependent. But
that relationship is a codependent relationship.
I've actually experienced, it's really interesting because I've been, I don't think we are codependent.
No,
I think we just really like hanging out with each other. And I also think we are pretty independent in general. Like, I think with parenting, it becomes a little bit more complex.
Yeah.
If you're like doing all these social things, and I'm like, well, I want to sometimes do a social thing. And for example, this week, I didn't go do a social thing because you were, and I was like, I don't want to spend $120 on a babysitter.
Sure.
So next time I want to do a social thing, it's just you have to cross-check with each other for everything.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have a lot of jealousy, even though I was joking about the sluts you're playing doubles with.
But even that, I don't think would be what codependency is. I think I might be like a little needy, maybe I would say, which, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, but not necessarily in this way. So here are...
No, I'm saying that none of this resonates with me at all. It's what I almost thought codependency could be is like, needing each other's like emotional time.
Yes. So here are characteristics of codependent people.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
An exaggerated sense of responsibility for the actions of others.
Yes, wait, give an example of that, because I feel like I know what that means, but what's like an example of that? Can you read that sentence again?
An exaggerated sense of responsibility for the actions of others.
Yeah, or like, okay, it's like when you meet someone that, like, they have someone chaotic in their life, and it's like they take on the responsibility of being like up in their shit and so worried about them all the time. And then so to their friends, it's like, I would go to the party with you, but like, Stacy's got this thing, and if I'm not there, she's gonna freak out and act out again. So I gotta be there. And it's like,
that's a great,
just let Stacy be Stacy.
Stacy, yeah. A tendency to confuse love and pity with the tendency to love people they can pity and rescue. A tendency to do more than their share all of the time.
Wait, say that one again.
Tendency to do more than their share all the time. So that's the martyr thing. Like,
and they feel owed.
And then there's a resentment built up.
Yep.
A tendency to become hurt when people don't recognize their efforts. An unhealthy dependence on relationship. An extreme need for approval and recognition. A sense of guilt when asserting themselves. A compelling need to control others. Lack in trust in self and or others. Fear of being abandoned or alone. Difficulty identifying feelings. Difficulty adjusting to change. Problems with intimacy and boundaries. That paints a pretty clear picture to me. And again, I think that it is like a learned thing. If you're someone who grew up in a codependent home, I think it's really hard to detach yourself from like, that's how relationships are. I think, I'm trying to think of like reading this, I think I was baited into a codependent friend relationship.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember this, but
I'll dig deep.
There was a friend I had who we hit it off, and it was hot and fast, and I typically like love those types of friendships, or have. I kind of, it's exciting, and it's like, oh, I totally click with this person. Now when that happens, which it's very rare actually.
As you get older,
It hasn't happened in quite some time, but it now, like, I'd say in the last 8 years, if that had happened, it would have been kind of a red flag to me. Like, if I'm like, oh my God, I love this person and I want to hang out with them all the time.
Yeah.
Because in this situation, it was almost like she tried to make me the codependent one with those characteristics, where she was having me, like, she was constantly calling me and being like, oh my God, I have to go do this thing. Can you come take the dogs out? Can you come? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
And I started to feel like my full-time job was picking up the pieces of her life. And it also had this like hierarchical thing, because she was quote unquote further along in her career and was doing quote unquote important things, whereas I seemingly just had all this free time and this was before kids.
This has total flavors of that, but I almost wonder if it's like, if there's something else for that, because that kind of thing is wild, and you get swept up in it very quickly, and all of a sudden you're in some other person's world, and you almost, it's like, I'm like powerless in this relationship. How did I get here? How am I being like puppeteered in this weird emotional way?
Yeah, I did feel puppeteered, and it only lasted like 5 months probably.
But that's probably because of just who you are. Someone else could have fallen into that for years and years and years.
I think this person does that, and I mean, my heart goes out to this person also. I have no like ill will to them. I think, again, this is something that, is kind of embedded from your experiences. But I have then seen kind of similar relationships take place. And the relationship ultimately ended because we kind of bonded. This was also during the dog rescue years. We bonded over like our love for animals and doing rescue, and it all kind of fell apart because that person ended up rescuing some animals and it went awry, and they did not handle it in a way that someone who loved animals would handle it.
Oh, interesting.
And I called them out on it. And it was like me breaching the understanding of I'm kind of the like lowly person who's there to cater to them and I'm helping them. Was like the end of it.
Which, interesting though, is like, it was almost in some ways you were asserting power.
Yes.
And on the other side of this relationship, there's like, oh, that won't work for the kind of thing I'm after here.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Whoa, that's crazy.
I know, but reading this, I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense.
The other thing about these kind of things, and maybe I'm sure there's a lot of overlap, I am so averse to those people that you can meet where their life seems like it's in chaos, and also there's like this just very big woe is me kind of vibe that they put out, and that almost like nothing goes right for them and everything's like they're all over the place and crazy. And I think some people are attracted to that, but I'm like, I run for the fucking hills. I'm like, I don't have time for this shit.
I think that's also learned. I mean, if you think back to your first relationship, like your first serious relationship, I don't know how it was for you, but I think growing up, you know, you see love as this passionate thing and people who are really fighting, and there's this attraction to like fighting, or like almost like it's mistaken for fighting for each other, kind of. And something that seems chaotic and dysfunctional actually seems very alive.
Sure.
And it's interesting because there's not truth to that. I mean, I've heard couples therapists basically said, well, you two are still have so much anger and like care about the other person's opinion so much, and
that there's still a flame here.
There's still something here versus the people who literally are so indifferent to what's happening with the other that they don't even care to be mad.
That's the death.
That's the death nail. Yeah.
Nail or Knell?
Oh, that's so interesting, because in a crossword puzzle, there was like morning bells. I learned it's Knell. I thought it was nail, like nail in the coffin.
I can't even believe that you would ever think that that's what it is.
What?
It's death knell.
Knell?
Yeah. Right? I don't know. I'm just fucking with you. Is it?
I think so. It's like bells ringing.
Knell?
Knell. Hang on. People who do
we were talking about something so serious.
Death knell.
Knell.
It's the ringing of a church bell to announce the death of a person. Knell.
The knell is a bell?
Knell is a bell.
That's fucking confusing.
But anyway, going back to so I'm looking back on my first like serious relationship.
Yeah.
And how like when it felt fraught, because in my case, he went off to college before me. I was still in high school, and there was lots of like really fraught, and we're taught from like rom-coms and all of the stuff that means it's, you know. And I will say,
Did he give you a sweatshirt or anything when he went to college? Old pair of boxer shorts?
I don't remember what he did. Probably.
Did he smell good though?
He did. He probably gave me a t-shirt, and then.
Do you think you can still smell him now?
No, but you know what I made for him, which was really cute. He was
mixtape?
Huh?
A mixtape.
No, that's cute. It was like so he was really nerdy, and his hobby was like taking apart and putting together computers.
Oh, cool.
And he had a blind uncle who ran a company. This is interesting. His blind uncle owned a company that was like doing computer repair.
Okay.
So the ex-boyfriend would work there and like got to do that for his job. And so he
was kind of the guy that had eyes on stuff.
Yes. Good. But he was. Yeah, like he literally was. Because I never really thought about that, because that seems like a visual job. But he was going off to college, and I made a care package for him. And I meticulously like wrapped it to be a computer, like a desktop computer with the brain, whatever that's called, and then like a curly Q ribbon and a little gift that was the mouse and a keyboard, and it was like spectacular.
But there were presents in it that weren't computer stuff, but you wrapped them like they were computer stuff.
Yeah.
Was he disappointed when he opened it up and it wasn't computer stuff?
No. I'm sure I got him things he liked.
Like what?
I don't remember what he was liked. I mean,
hit us up on Instagram. What she had sent you, please.
So anyway, but when he left for college, I was like, kiss someone else if you must, but I don't want to know about it. Oh. Remember, I was going to marry him because that was going to undo us going to hell and stuff. Yeah. So I assumed he would go to college and get drunk one night and like kiss someone and then be like, oh, it's not Elizabeth. But it turns out that wasn't how things played out. And then so the next
he went and got an STD called beaver fever in college. It turns out.
But he ended up coming clean to me. And the way he did, it was so dramatic.
He definitely ended up coming.
Clean or not. The way he told me was so dramatic. We were on the phone, and I remember it so clearly, being in my parents' house on the phone, and he said, do you want to hear something you said you don't want to hear?
What a fucking shitty setup that is. Ouch.
Well, he was I think, fraught with guilt.
No, I'm just saying that's like,
it was a tough thing to hear. And then I was like, oh, and then he told me, and then I had a broken heart. I was a mess. I was so sad. And then we like kind of got back together a few different times and on and off for a little bit until like my parents died and stuff. And then, but where was I going with this? Oh, that teenage love of this like fraught thing. I think some people confuse the chaos and passion. I mean, luckily, as I grew up, that dissipated, and now I don't seek chaos. I seek this handsome man who dives for tennis balls and stuff. But
I know what you mean. But I think, I know.
It's a long story about.
I know exactly what you're saying. Just to kind of wrap things up, it would be crazy if it turned out you guys were still going to hell and it was that tuberculosis hell that I had put out there. Like, what if you go to get your shot and you see him in the waiting room, and then that's when you realize, like, oh my God, we're in hell. And I have to keep bumping into him getting the medicine because you guys both keep forgetting to take it once in the rounds of it.
And in this, is it like, sorry, have we died? Like, do we know we're dead? Or is this just today I'm going to go get in my car and go?
No. This is where it begins. It's like all of a sudden you bump into him getting tuberculosis clinic. And you're like, that's weird. I haven't seen him. And then like 3 months later, you forget your pill and you're so bummed out and you go back to the office and then he's in the waiting room for the same reason. And that's when it's like, dun, 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 dun.
We had both gotten tuberculosis.
Yes.
Huh. Okay. Well, yeah, that would be wild.
Could be worse, but...
It could be worse.
Yeah.
It could be worse. That would be strange. Also, like, he doesn't live here. I mean, there are also so many factors
that would make it so strange.
Feel really weird.
I don't actually think you're going to go to hell.
Did you have... I don't know if you ever had your heart broken. Did you not?
I definitely had some big emotional type relationship stuff. No, I probably did.
Who? Which gal?
I would say...
Who put you in a spiral?
The most turmoil that I endured, for sure, without a doubt, would have been my main college girlfriend.
Yes.
Turmoil.
Yes. Turmoil. Did she mess with you?
Yeah, messed with me.
How?
She had like this like best friend, guy friend that
and
she
again,
like
if, by the way,
always wielded power with me with. Yeah. Like
she had a best guy friend that she wielded power.
Yeah, it was like this just seems crazy. Like you hang out with this guy constantly.
Like she almost wanted you to feel jealous.
Yeah. And then all sorts of other stuff. Great gal, though.
And also if you're out, since I'm trying to make a joke that she listens, but it's not that funny.
But all that being said, everybody's weird going through stuff. I feel like all those early relationships are tough. That's why
I think those early relationships are really formative and kind of important. And ideally, you learn from it and kind of it helps. I mean, I think a huge relationship goal is to get to, and some people just cannot be attracted to like stability.
Yeah, sure.
But
yeah, we know some of those folks.
And honestly, when you and I started dating, I wouldn't say that that's something you were offering.
No, not on my end. You
Yeah,
sure were, though.
You seemed pretty chaotic, honestly.
Sure.
But emotionally, you weren't chaotic. Like
right. I was just chaotic in
your life. Yeah. I think that that's why I get really nervous when I hear about people marrying really young. I'm like, but that's their first pancake. That's the one you trash because it's not fully formed yet. It's important. It's very important. And you have to have it.
My bigger fear is that, but taken to this next level where, yes, a chaotic people might be attracted to people. Codependent people might be attracted to a certain type of other person. But there are scenarios where it really is just the luck of a draw where a person can get swept into a crazy world. And it solely happens because they're in the wrong place in the wrong time and this person sets their sights on it.
Totally.
And I fear that the most with like our kids, with friends. It's like that's what scares the shit out of me.
I know. I mean, that is really scary. And having listened to so many episodes of Something Was Wrong, that podcast where there are people out there who do that to other people. And I want to say this also. If someone, sees themselves in codependency or sees themselves in needing chaos, like, I think that is great that you see yourself and,
you're
there's no
ahead of the game for the
way ahead of the game. And also like no shame in that, no blame in that or anything. I think that's like virtue, it's product of a person's circumstances, basically, and their upbringing and their life experience. But Something Was Wrong, there's some people who kind of prey on people.
Yes.
And then there are some people who just do that without even realizing that that's what they do to like partner after partner after partner, where they suck someone who was at the wrong place at the wrong time in, and then weave this tangled web around them.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to get out.
It's like for 90% of the people that get lured into a cult, you're doing the aftermath of it and you're like, oh yeah, I see why these people got lured in because of their background and these traits and whatnot. But then there's 10% of the people that are like, man, you really were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like you aren't actually the stereotypical framework for what would be in this, right? Where a lot of them, it's like, oh yeah, you came from this and this and this. It's that 10% that scares me.
And I very much identify with like, I don't think I'll join a cult, but I could have.
Yeah.
So easily.
Sure.
You probably wouldn't have.
No. I couldn't be more skeptical of everything in the world.
I know. No, that attitude is really interesting to me. And it's like the opposite of kind of the attitude I have. And we've talked about this. Your expectations are low, and sometimes they're so low that you're like, I don't even believe it.
Yeah.
My expectations are always high, and sometimes so high that I just am endlessly disappointed.
Yeah.
But I also am generally pretty trusting of things and what, you are so distrusting. And I feel like your flavor of distrust is different, but very next door to like conspiracy theory stuff that I think comes from, like, if you're looking at the QAnon people and it's unfortunately a lot of like people who are around retirement age or older who, I don't know I'm sure this has been studied and I'm going to sound like an idiot talking about it, but what is that? How does someone who is perfectly normal in their life become such a crazy conspiracy theorist? And it is clearly linked to fear. Can you speak to that being kind of a different type of
Well, I think I'm the opposite
skeptic?
where I don't think I could ever be duped by like QAnon or something because I move through the world with these goggles on that's always like, there's always a fucking catch. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's always, like,
Yes.
if you're a solicitor on my door, you don't have a fucking chance with me. Like, I'm just like, nah, there's a chance. And I'm always like, it's always the fucking money. Like, there's always, that's why I shit on so many big organized religions and whatnot. It's always the money or whatever. But I don't know. We would have to, gosh, there was a really great podcast. I think it was a New York Times podcast called maybe Rabbit Hole that really dives into some of the QAnon and some examples of people falling down it. I don't remember the takeaways.
What's interesting about it, I mean, you just made this point and I hadn't thought of it that way, is that they are getting duped into questioning everything else. But they're not questioning this thing that seems so questionable. And like, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a beautiful scam or a beautiful trick to it all.
Well, it seems like a lot of master manipulators use a very clear tactic, which is saying that other people are doing the thing they're doing. I mean, it's a very Trump thing.
Oh, yeah.
Being like, Democrats are, sexual deviants and they're all pedophiles. It's like, dude, you are.
Yeah.
So, on that note that I've alienated... Oh, sorry to disappoint anyone who's newly listening and a big Trump fan.
Or new to Q.
Or new to Q.
I do get with the Q thing.
Good luck on your Q journey.
The Q attracted so many like older people on like Facebook, and I think it was the first time like a lot of these older people got to experience the internet in a way that like they kept getting fed stuff that they were to look for clues, and fuck, that's fun.
That is fun. I mean? It's like a mystery.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So like I get that part of it.
Yeah. Okay, let's put aside how damaging that whole thing was to so much.
Everybody likes a scavenger hunt. Can
you imagine? Like, let's just for a minute sit in the joy of like, Eagle Flag, 69.
Yeah.
Who has, his whole basement is decked out in American flags, and he's got his computer set up and he's just glued to it for QAnon. And he's the joy he felt when like Q posted something about with some numeric code.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God. And then he goes and looks up like the second line of the Declaration of Independence, first letter.
Right.
And he spells a word out of it.
Right.
And he's like, this is related to Hunter Biden's laptop.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Or like the number was like, that's Hunter Biden's like license plate number. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, how?
That's fun. That's fucking fun.
Yeah, good for them.
That's fun.
All right. On that note, good night.
Good night.